And so, with regard to footballs, I'm sure that any current or past player of mine would tell you that the balls we practice with are as bad as they can be. Wet, sticky, cold, slippery, whatever, however bad we can make them, I make them. And anytime that players complain about the quality of the balls, footballs, I make them worse, and that stops the complaint. So we never use the condition of the footballs as an excuse. We play with whatever or kick with whatever we have to use, and that's the way it is. That has never been a priority for me, and I want the players to deal with a harder situation in practice than they'll ever have to deal with in the game. And maybe that's part of our whole ball security philosophy. I'm trying to coach the team, and that's what I want to do. I think we all know that quarterbacks, kickers, specialists have certain preferences on footballs. They know a lot more about it than I do. They're a lot more sensitive to it than I am. And I hear them comment on it from time to time. But I can tell you, and they will tell you, that there is never any sympathy whatsoever from me on that subject. Zero. And Tom's personal preferences on his footballs are something that he can talk about in much better detail and information than I could possibly provide. I could tell you that in my entire coaching career, I have never talked to any player, staff member about football air pressure. That is not a subject that I have ever brought up. To me, the footballs are approved by the league and game officials pregame, and we play with what's out there. And that's the only way that I have ever thought about that. I've learned about the inflation range situation. Obviously, with our footballs being inflated to the 12.5-pound range, any deflation would then take us under that specification limit. Knowing that now, in the future, we will certainly inflate the footballs above that low level to account for any possible change during the game. So, as an example, if a ball deflated from 13.2 to 12.9, it wouldn't matter, but if it deflated from 12.5 to 12.3, it would. So, as an example, so we will take steps in the future to make sure that we don't put ourselves in that type of potential situation again. The National Football League is investigating this situation. We have cooperated fully, quickly, and completely with every request that they have made. Continue to be cooperative in any way that we can. I have no explanation for what happened, and that's what they're looking into. So I can't comment on what they're doing. That's something that you should talk to them about. Again, my overall knowledge of football specifications, the overall process that happens on game day with the footballs is very limited. I would say that during the course of the game, it honestly never, probably has happened on an incomplete pass or something, but I've never touched a game ball. That's not something that I have any familiarity with on that. And again, I was completely and totally unaware of any of this that we're talking about in the last couple of days until Monday morning. So based on what I knew Sunday night, thinking back on this, which I've done several times, really can't think of anything that I would have done differently based on what I knew then, based on what I know now. I told you the one change we would make in the initial start level of the football pressure, but that's really about it. I mean, it's unfortunate that this is a story coming off of two great playoff victories by our football team, our players. But again, we've been cooperative with the NFL investigation. We'll continue to do so, and we will turn all our attention and focus onto the Seattle Seahawks, a very well-coached, talented, tough, competitive football team. We've spent the last 3 days, with our preparations and so forth for the trip, and I think those are coming to a conclusion. We're wrapping that up, and we're starting our preparations today with the Seahawks and practicing through the weekend, so we'll have a good, solid opportunity to get ourselves ready to go before we head down there. Again, I have no further comment on the NFL investigation, and I've told you all I know about the subject from my perspective. So that's where we are.
Bill, aside from the NFL investigation, in your own investigation, did you find whether or not anyone willfully
I've told you everything I know.
Coach, what do you say to your critics?
I have nothing. I don't have an explanation.
Well, Coach,
What do you say to your
notwithstanding what you've said here today, there are a lot of people who are questioning your integrity, who say that you are a win at
I've
any and
told
all
you
costs
everything
football
I know.
coach. But what do you say to critics who are challenging your character, which seems to go well beyond the sport of football?
Told you everything I know.
Coach,
Well,
what do you
any
talk
message to the
Tom?
fans? Any message to the fans who are watching all of this and are upset by this?
I've told them everything I know. There's nothing else I can add to it.
Bill, what
Coach,
have
how do
you
you
talked
keep
to
the
Tom
football?
about, I would assume you've had conversations with Tom about this specific issue and what happened?
I have no explanation for what happened.
Coach, why do you think these controversies continue to follow you?
I don't have an explanation for what happened.
As many Super Bowls as you've been to, Coach, you know distractions come with the territory. What do you say to your younger players who don't have the experience being in this spotlight like this as some of the older players?
None of them are involved in
How do you
this.
keep them focused, though, with all of this going on? It's hard to...
Right, none of them are involved in this.
Coach,
What
do
have
you
you
see
You've learned
any
a lot of the
scenario
past
under
couple
which
of
11
days
of
about
12
how the balls are
footballs-
handled. Does Tom Brady handle the ball after inspection with his ball boys?
Those are all questions that should be directed to the league, and that's part of what they're doing.
Is it
And that's
possible,
not what I'm doing.
is it possible that someone on your sideline, even though you may not know about it, might have deliberately altered the balls?
I
during the
don't
course
have
of
an
the
explanation for what happened. I've told you all that I can tell you from my point of view, and anything coming from the investigative side from the league needs to be directed toward them.
Why do you want to
Your
inflate the
fans
balls? Why do you
focus
want
on
to
the game.
overinflate the balls unless you think that somehow it happens naturally?
So that there is no opportunity for a small margin of error that would put us under the specifications.
Do you see any circumstance
Okay.
under which 11 of 12 balls, Coach, do you see any circumstance under which 11 of 12 footballs could have accidentally deflated?
I don't have an explanation for what happened.
Bill, last question, Bill, knowing how much you care about, obviously what's going on, what's it been like for you since you found out about the investigation, and what's it been like trying to deal with everything going on?
Well, as I said, I've learned a lot about the process. I had no idea how the balls got from the officials' locker room to out on the field and so forth and so on and all that. That's not something that I have ever thought or concerned myself about game day. I've concerned myself with preparing and coaching the team. And so some of the things like that that have been talked about that have happened, I mean, I'm totally unaware of.
All right, thank you.
Bill, talk about your code of conduct.